name's Lucy Cushman. I'm from Stratham, and I am co-chairing the CMS Renewal Committee this year. And I want to thank people for coming tonight to hear our presentation. Last year, we had a proposal on the ballot. It got 52% of the vote, but a bond requires 60%. So we're back. Yes, it is the same project, and it is more expensive, but it's what we need. And the committee and the school board are both in agreement that this is what we need for the middle school. So the proposal includes 2 new pods, and pods are groups of classrooms, and the new pods would be located here and here. We're also suggesting a new gym and music rooms and renovations to the rest of the school, including increased security. We're also adding in something else that was taken out 20 years ago when we built the school. We planned for a larger school. People were sure that the middle school population was going to go way down, and they wanted to keep the budget down. So classrooms were cut, as was a second elevator. Now, for some reason, the elevator that was installed was located not at the front of the building, but at the rear of the classroom area over here. And we're proposing to put one in here to keep it to be a much shorter distance from entering the school. We also, when we built the school, the cafeteria, which is located here, has the kitchen in the middle of it, which leaves 2 areas on either side of the kitchen for the students. And it's not working. It hasn't worked. And so we're proposing to take the kitchen out of the middle of the cafeteria and build it out here with a shipping and storage area behind it. And this is the bottom for the extra classrooms on the 2nd floor, as is this area here. This will allow for, instead of 6 lunches, to have only 3. And that will allow all the 6th graders to have lunch together, all the 7th graders, all the 8th graders. Music. We're proposing 2 new music rooms. Right now, because of the way the school has had to be reconfigured, let me just step back a minute. When we opened the school, as I said, people were sure the population was going to go way down. It hasn't. But because we made the school have fewer classrooms, we have always had 12 teams of students, 4 teams for each grade, and only 10 sets of classrooms. So we've always had, well, in the beginning, we had 2 traveling teams. Over the years, people didn't want their children on a traveling team, so the administration worked to reconfigure the uses of the rooms to make everybody have an area where they could have their core classrooms together, which is what a pod is. It's a grouping of core classrooms with an area for lockers and a meeting area outside for the kids. They sit on the carpet and they can have their team meetings there. So because that happened, rooms have been repurposed. And this school was built to morph and change because education is constantly in flux. But now we have music rooms like orchestra. And so we have a group playing the tuba, and then in the next room we have a group taking a math test. That doesn't work very well. So we would like to take the music and put it over here. 90% of the kids in the middle school participate in music, and either in orchestra, band, or chorus, which I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and we want to certainly encourage that going forward. So some of these rooms need to be restored to what they were. Because of program changes at the school over the years, all of the things that we used to offer, we don't do as much with family and consumer science as we used to. We don't have 3 areas for tech education as we used to. Those things have changed. Many of those rooms have been repurposed, and that's a natural thing. But to take a closet and turn it into the guidance counselor's room, that's not natural, because after all, we all need closets. So this renovation will allow the closets to go back to being closets and give people who need office space, but most importantly, provide the instructional area for the students. We're also, as I said before, adding a second elevator and the gym. The gym is another thing. Right now, we have up to 90 middle schoolers having physical education at the same time in the gym. Now, that's not 90 students with one teacher. It's 90 students with 3 teachers. But how many of you would want to be in a room with 90 middle schoolers doing something physical? To me, it sounds crazy, but it also doesn't sound very safe. So we would very much like to have another gym so that we can have smaller gym classes using the gym at the same time. It will also allow us for the after-school programs to have intramural athletics for 6th grade, which isn't allowed now because there's just not enough gym space. The 7th and 8th graders take it all. There are no social events because the gym is being used for other purposes. And right now, on the weekends, every rec department in all 6 of our SAU towns uses the gyms of the co-op for their rec programs. And so it's not just the middle schoolers who will be using the second gym. On the weekends, this will be open to rec departments and in the evenings to adult basketball groups or volleyball groups.
And is that income driven? Will they get money for people renting this?
We don't charge within the SAU. If the town of, say the town of Brentwood needed a basketball game space, they wouldn't pay to use the space because they pay for this building with their tax dollars. The only thing that they have to do is their rec department has to make some sort of arrangement to make sure that there's a janitor there, and I do think they have to make some donation to cover for that person to be there to be responsible for the building, to lock up, turn the lights out, turn the heat down, all that sort of thing.
But that's an extra benefit for all
That's
towns.
An extra benefit for everyone is the meeting space. And a lot of groups use the auditorium for different things. I've been to things that do generate income. For example, what do you call the ballet groups at the end of the year? Recitals.
Mm-hmm.
Recitals. And many recitals go on here. There have been, now this happens to be in Stratham, and I know that Stratham used this for their play when we celebrated 300 years. Mm-hmm. We also had the premiere night of our New Hampshire town when we were on Channel 11 with people telling stories about Stratham. We went there for that, and I'm sure that there was some sort of exchange again for a janitor, but it's a wonderful space at a very minimal cost. But for actual things sponsored by the town, there isn't a charge. Any other questions?
I have a question, but I don't know if you want it at the end or
just go ahead.
Okay, about school security. I know with recent events that's on the front of everyone's minds. How will this help?
Well, there's a plan for increased security at the doors. Now, right now, as Helen Joyce said the other night in Stratham, we have been recognized, I guess is more a better word, for our security in our SAU because during the day, all the doors are locked and the only access into the building is through the front. What we want to do is increase the security at the front door. Right now, it's on a system that they would like to make more secure. The high school has the same sort of thing. You can't just walk into the high school. You have to go to the office. You have to show ID. I know when I go to the middle school, and I co-chaired building the middle school, and I've been either on the school board or involved ever since. So I'm not like an unknown person, but I cannot walk into the middle school without showing a photo ID to get in. So they are very strict. There are no exceptions. And that's the way it should be, to make sure our kids are safe. That's one of the reasons, too, that we didn't pursue modular classrooms. Modular classrooms don't solve the problem. They're a nice bridge when you are waiting to do something else. They're a nice sort of a Band-Aid solution to a problem, but they're very hard to heat, they're hard to cool, and they're not safe. They don't have the integrity that this building has.
So will modular classrooms happen if this doesn't pass?
Oh, I hope
No.
not.
No.
I hope not. The school board is not in favor of modulars at all. The school has been making do, and I'm sure if this doesn't pass that they will continue to make do, but is that really what we want for our kids? We live in an area where education has a very high value for people. We have a very well-educated populace, and parents have high expectations for their children. And so I'm hoping that they will come out and vote. And in a town like we're in Newfields tonight, so perhaps it would be important for people in Newfields to know how much this will cost them.
Mhm.
If you live in a $400,000 house in Newfields, and if your home is less expensive or more expensive, you can do the math.
Mhm.
It will add about $168 to your tax bill next year.
That's it.
That's it.
$14 a month, I think it was.
And I live in Stratham, and for us, it's only $144.
Oh, I had heard it was a lot more, so that's great.
No. And when you start to think about $168, you just said you figured it out to be about $14 a month. What is that? Coffee?
3 lattes.
2 bottles of wine, or 1 bottle of nicer wine, 2 bottles of cheap wine, couple packs of beer, or
Eight lottery tickets.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
8 lottery tickets. I mean, it's you have to have priorities. And I know as a senior citizen, I feel that that it's my duty to pay this forward. I wrote a letter to the Exeter newsletter, and hopefully it will be in tomorrow, in which I said that I don't have any children or grandchildren in the district. I never have since we did any of these schools. And every year I pay my taxes to support local police and fire. And then I pray that they never come into my house. I don't want to see them. To me, the money I pay in taxes for school is a positive movement. It's something I'm doing positive for the kids that I know from church or from my neighborhood, the kids that come to my house trick-or-treating. It's for them. It's a positive thing. And I was lucky enough to grow up here. I went to Stratham Memorial School and Exeter Junior High and Exeter High School. And my parents had 5 children. There's no way that my parents' taxes paid for our education. And when you think about it, one student at the high school every year is about $15,000, a little bit less at the middle school, but say $13,000. Not a lot of people pay $13,000 or $15,000 a year in taxes, and many people have more than one child, and we're talking now K through 12. So it really does take a village, and we all need to pitch in. And this is let's get it done. Let's get this done. But we need 60%. It's 60% of all the people who vote in all 6 towns, and that's Newfields, Brentwood, East Kingston, Kensington, Exeter, and Stratham. So if 10,000 people vote and 6,500 of them vote yes, I guess, is that right? We're good. It's getting people to come out and actually vote. That's the important thing. So next Tuesday, March 13th, does anyone know where you vote in Newfields?
Town Hall.
Town Hall, do you know what the hours are?
7 to 8, I believe. But
7.
I'll have to. I can confirm that for you in a sec.
Okay. But it's important that you get out and vote, get your neighbors to vote. We really need to get this done this year. Hi, how are you? Hi, thanks for joining us. I was just going over what the proposal is and how it affects changes in the school. Changes would be in the red is remodel and the green is the new area. And so what we're doing to the cafeteria is moving the kitchen out and making this all cafeteria. We want a second gym. We want to take the music rooms, which have now been incorporated into the instructional area, out and put them over here so that when the kids are doing the orchestra and the chorus, that they're not doing it in a classroom next to the kids who are taking some sort of a test. They do the best with soundproofing that they can do, but it's not ideal situation. and we want to make it as good for the kids as we can. So we're also working on beefing up security at the front desk. It's already secure, but there's always more that we can do, and that's part of this project. We're adding a second elevator. We only have one, and for some reason, when we built the school, we had it one plan for here and one plan for here. And I chaired the committee when we built it, and I don't know why we did, but the elevator we put in is over here, which is a long way from the front door. And it's not just kids, handicapped kids. It's kids who play soccer and do something to their leg or fall down or go skiing and come home with a broken leg or a broken arm. And they have to maneuver and getting up and down the stairs because we have a 2-story school. So some of the classrooms are on the second floor. We also, because we don't have enough classrooms, we have over 20 teachers on carts. And so they have a cart, literally it's like a 2-tray table with all their art teaching supplies or their music teaching, whatever it is that their foreign language. Many of them are world language teachers who are on carts. And they have to go sometimes from a classroom downstairs to their next period is upstairs. So they need to use the elevator. And when the elevator is in use for someone else, they get there late. And going up and downstairs with a cart doesn't really work. Nor does going up and downstairs with a broken leg work.
One of the teachers at the deliberative session was saying between the time it takes for her to power down her computer, put everything back on her cart, go to her next classroom, take everything off, repower her computer. People talk about getting value for your money. She's like, we are losing hours of instructional time every day, every week to us just traveling from classroom to classroom because we don't have a home base.
And I used to be a classroom teacher, and I taught at elementary school. In fact, I taught in Newfields for a couple times. And having your own classroom is important for a teacher. I mean, people can do it without it, but having your own classroom, having your own base, or even having a classroom that's where you do all of your teaching, even if you share it with another person. If it's a world language classroom, then it's set up for that. If you have to go in and teach Spanish in a science lab, it's not the same. I mean, you can do it because we have amazing teachers and they do the best that they can do. But it's not the same as having a language room that could be devoted to language and where you could have all sorts of pictures about the culture as well as, and get into discussions and using vocabulary and with all sorts of things that you would have in your classroom if you didn't have to then pack everything up, put it into a small table and hike it upstairs or downstairs to the next classroom. There's just so much more you could do. And that's what we want to do, is just give everybody the best opportunity possible. So.
What's the biggest misconception you all have heard on your planning committee that you're trying to get out? The population thing, I think, is 20 years ago, people said, you don't need to build such a big school because the number of middle school children is going to go way down. We just know it is. And you know what? It hasn't. But that myth is still there. And now they're saying, well, look, some of the elementary schools, particularly Kensington and East Kingston, have gotten really, really tiny. But we don't get all of our middle school or high school kids from our own elementary schools. If you've tried to buy a house in SAU 16 lately, you know that the price is not inexpensive. So many people move here when their kids are at middle or high school level. So a lot of our middle schoolers have not all gone through all the elementary grades. That makes so much sense.
In the town. They move in. And that has been the trend. And Peter Francis, a local demographer who that's what he does. He studies all this stuff. He says that this area of New Hampshire, because of its location, it's an hour to Portland, hour to Boston, it's near the ocean, 40 minutes to Manchester. It's a prime location for people to live who want to get to these other places, to get to an airport in Manchester or Portland or Boston, or who want to live near the ocean, or somewhere neat where they can at least get a sea breeze. I know I get a sea breeze in Stratham. I don't know if you get them all the way over here in Newfields, but I do. But it's just a prime location. And he said that the population projections that he sees ahead are for the same thing. It's going to be steady. So it's not that we are expecting more kids. We're just trying to have a school that will meet the needs of the kids we already have. We aren't going to need to hire teachers and equip classrooms. We already have the teachers and the students and a lot of the material for the classrooms. We just need the classrooms.
Right.
We just need the space.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is people are short. And I'm not a demographer, so when an expert tells me that this is what is happening, and I've been here long enough to observe that the population of the middle school has not plummeted. It has gone up and down, but it stayed within a range of 100 students, up or down. And right now I think it's about 50 students lower than when we opened, something like that. So we're going to need the space for a long time to come.
Yeah.
If this doesn't go through, I had heard at one point they were talking about they would have to do mobile units or something,
We were
or
talking
trailers.
about modulars before you came in.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they would do that. I think they would continue to make do,
Okay.
which means that the classrooms are overcrowded and that the teachers are having to move around, and it's not the best situation for the kids, mainly because, as we were saying earlier, modulars are not only do they take up space, modulars, what we're doing is we're adding on to the school out here in the area that's pretty much within the loop that we already have of the road. But modulars would spread out would have to go out from some area, either this way or this way. And they would go into the parking areas and into the playing fields. They are hard to heat, they're hard to cool, and they're not secure. They're not an integral part of the building. And that's it becomes more important every time we turn on the news, we hear something else. So since I'm not on a school board anymore, but having listened to their discussions, I doubt that they would do that, but school boards change and ideas change, so can't say for sure.
Okay. I'm going to stop. Thank you so much, Lucy. We really appreciate you coming.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This is